Hip-hop pioneer Heavy D died. Last, the rapper collapsed outside his Beverly Hills home. Heavy D was only 44 years old.
On November 8, 2011, the world lost hip-hop pioneer Heavy D. But more than a decade later, one chilling question remains. Did Diddy have something to do with it? Was it just internet gossip, or is there something more sinister beneath the surface?
And was starting to walk up the stairs and just kind of was heaving, couldn't breathe. He was, I guess, one of his neighbors who was a designer saw him out there, came over, was helping him, asking what's wrong. He just said, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe.
Is it safe to say that at a Diddy party, Diddy's really the only one who's safe and the rest of the celebrities are all at risk?
Well, that's a good way to put it. I never heard anyone put it that way.
Gan Deal's never loud when I'm loud. But if we're running in tandem, somehow everything that we're saying, even though we don't speak, is always corroborating each other. I can't wait for everybody to find out what's really been going on in the background.
Despite an official cause of death pointing to a pulmonary embolism, former street-connected insiders like Jaguar Wright, Big Homie CC, and Bad Boy Entertainment's former security, Gan Deal, began speaking out. And soon, a chilling theory started to spread. What if Heavy D didn't just die? What if he was silenced? Heavy D, born Dwight Arrington Myers on May 24, 1967, in Mandeville, Jamaica, and raised in Mount Vernon, New York. He was more than just a rapper. He was a cultural icon, a trailblazer who helped bring hip-hop into the mainstream with a smile and a suit. But on November 8, 2011, at just 44 years old, Heavy D died suddenly, and the official explanation was swift and clinical. According to the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office, the cause of death was a pulmonary embolism, a blockage in the lung caused by a blood clot. The clot had formed in his leg, a condition known as deep vein thrombosis, and traveled through his bloodstream before lodging in his lung, fatally cutting off circulation. The coroner's report noted that the clot likely developed during a long-haul flight from London to Los Angeles, shortly after a trip where Heavy D had been performing overseas.
And was starting to walk up the stairs and just kind of was heaving, couldn't breathe. He was, I guess, one of his neighbors who was a designer saw him out there, came over, was helping him, asking what's wrong. He just said, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe.
In the days leading up to his death, Heavy D was reportedly feeling ill, suffering from fatigue and a persistent cough. Despite that, he pressed on. On the morning of November 8th, he returned to his Beverly Hills condominium, and at around 11:25, he collapsed just outside the building. A neighbor called emergency services, and he was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead about 90 minutes later. Toxicology results revealed no signs of foul play, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, just traces of over-the-counter medication likely for his cold symptoms. The conclusion? A tragic, sudden but natural death, made worse by the hazards of frequent travel and untreated health issues. But to many fans and friends, that official version felt incomplete. Heavy D had just made a triumphant return to the spotlight. Only weeks before his death, he performed a high-energy tribute at the 2011 BET Hip Hop Awards, earning standing ovations. He appeared to be in good spirits, vibrant, focused, and fully committed to a second act in his career. He had recently contributed to a movie soundtrack, completed acting projects, and was working on new music. His social media presence was active. He was booked, busy, and back. So how could someone so seemingly healthy, so determined and full of life collapse and die with no prior warning? That question echoed across forums, radio stations, barbershops, and blogs. And as time passed, more voices began to speak out, questioning the neatness of the official story. Was it just an unfortunate medical tragedy, or was there something darker beneath the surface? In the world of hip-hop confessions and industry secrets, few voices carry as much unresolved tension as Gan Deal, former bodyguard to Sean Diddy Combs. Gan wasn't just muscle, he was a silent witness to the most powerful years of Bad Boy Entertainment, present at meetings, backstage confrontations, and late-night power plays that defined the golden era of hip-hop. Over the past few years, Gan has gained a following through explosive YouTube interviews and podcast appearances where he shares stories from inside the Bad Boy machine, stories often laced with regret, coded language, and unspoken implications. While he has never directly spoken about Heavy D's death, his frequent criticisms of Diddy and commentary on the culture of fear and silence within the industry have kept fans speculating. In his interviews, Gene often paints a picture of a world driven by ego, money, and betrayal, a world where loyalty was fragile and power came at a cost. He describes Diddy not just as a mogul, but as someone who inspired both fear and compliance, suggesting that many in his circle kept secrets whether by choice or necessity. Although Heavy D's name has rarely surfaced in Gene's discussions, his commentary on how people in the industry get removed or disappear from the picture has been interpreted by some as allusions to broader patterns. The fact that he speaks so cautiously, pausing mid-sentence, trailing off as if biting his tongue, only adds to the tension. For listeners, the silence often says more than the words. In one moment, Gene reflects, "There were things going on behind the scenes that y'all will never know. Some of us had to keep quiet just to stay alive, spiritually and physically." This style of veiled messaging has fueled conspiracy theories online, including those surrounding Heavy D's sudden and unexpected death in 2011. Not because Gene accused anyone directly, he didn't, but because his tone, his caution, and his history with Diddy paint a compelling backdrop to a story many believe is more layered than it appears. Some fans argue that if someone like Heavy D ever challenged Diddy behind closed doors, it would explain the eerie silence that followed his passing. Others think Gene's absence of comment on Heavy D is intentional, that his silence is itself a clue. But again, this is all speculation built not on facts, but on tone, omission, and atmosphere. What's certain is that Gan Deal has become a mythmaker, a storyteller whose every pause leaves room for suspicion. Whether he's holding back truth or simply being careful, one thing is clear: his stories have added a chilling tone to the conversations around Diddy's legacy. Jaguar Wright, a neo-soul singer who rose to fame in the early 2000s, has become one of the most controversial voices in the music industry. Once known for her powerful vocals and collaborations with The Roots, she later gained notoriety not for her music, but for her outspoken revelations about alleged corruption, abuse, and cover-ups within the entertainment world. Over the past decade, Wright has carved out a reputation as a whistleblower of hip-hop's darkest secrets, using social media live streams and interviews to air accusations few others dare to voice.
I can't wait for everybody to find out what's really been going on in the background.
In one particularly disturbing appearance, Wright alleged that certain high-powered figures within the industry had access to covert methods for eliminating threats without drawing attention. These methods, according to her, involved the use of substances or strategies that could mimic medical emergencies. She claimed that targets could be silenced through symptoms that resembled natural health crises, particularly cardiac-related events. No violence, no mess, just a quiet clinical end. Though many dismissed her narrative as extreme or speculative, her comments resurfaced when fans began to revisit the circumstances around Heavy D's sudden death. Official reports attributed his passing to a pulmonary embolism. The cause was medical, the details were clean. But to those who had listened closely to Wright's warnings, the overlap was too unsettling to ignore. Heavy D died not long after a long-haul flight. He had been feeling unwell. He was battling fatigue and a persistent cough. He collapsed outside his Beverly Hills residence and died later in the hospital. It was swift, unexpected, and largely unexplained beyond a vague medical conclusion. Some listeners began drawing parallels. Wright had spoken of heart attack symptoms. Heavy D's death was caused by a blood clot in the lungs, a condition that can quickly affect the heart and cause chest pain, shortness of breath, or sudden collapse. The similarities added a new layer of suspicion for those already questioning the official narrative. What gave Wright's statements more weight in the eyes of her supporters was her history of calling out powerful industry players long before others came forward. She had previously made claims about exploitative practices, secret relationships, and abusive power dynamics that later aligned with testimonies from other insiders. Her pattern of naming names and speaking out added credibility for some, especially in a culture where silence is often rewarded. To the casual observer, Heavy D's death may have seemed like a sad but straightforward tragedy. But within the echo chamber of Wright's growing fan base, it became something else entirely. A potential example, a data point, a sign. While there has never been any official evidence to support her claims in connection to Heavy D's case, Jaguar Wright's narrative injected a chilling possibility into the public conversation. What if medical explanations can be manufactured? What if the industry knows how to cover its tracks? And what if Heavy D was not just a casualty of poor health, but a carefully chosen target? As the theories swirled, Wright's voice continued to echo online, pushing a new generation of hip-hop listeners to question what they thought they knew and to wonder who might be next. As theories around Heavy D's death continued to circulate, another voice added fuel to the fire: Big Homie CC. Known for his raw and unfiltered commentary on the music industry, CC isn't a label executive or mainstream artist. He's someone from the streets, and his stories often reflect that gritty perspective. In a series of videos, CC described experiencing sudden pneumonia-like illnesses that left him hospitalized. According to him, it wasn't a coincidence. He believed he had been deliberately exposed to something possibly tied to people with influence. He alleged that the industry had developed quiet methods for eliminating threats, viruses that mimicked natural illnesses like pneumonia, triggering the body to shut down without raising suspicion. It wasn't just theory for him, he believed it had nearly happened to him. As his claims gained attention, viewers began to draw parallels between his symptoms and those that preceded Heavy D's death. The cough, the fatigue, the sudden collapse, the respiratory failure. The pattern felt too familiar for some. Though CC never named names directly, one viral clip featured him stating, "Diddy's got a method, gives you a virus and it shuts your body down." His testimony added another disturbing layer to the narrative. Even without medical proof, the emotional weight of his words resonated especially for those already suspicious of the official story. To understand why some theories around Heavy D's death carry such weight, it's important to look back at the roots of his relationship with Sean Combs. Long before the fame, the headlines, and the record-breaking success, there was a young intern named Sean and a superstar named Heavy D who opened the door for him. In the late 1980s, Heavy D was at the peak of his career. As one of Uptown Records' biggest acts, he had already achieved mainstream success and was seen as the face of a new era of hip-hop that blended street credibility with commercial appeal. At the time, Uptown Records was run by Andre Harrell, a former rapper turned music executive.
Heavy is the only could ever talk to this little slime bucket and straighten his out. Now, the second time I started with him was because of Heavy D. And that's because they was doing the city college.
It was Heavy D who reportedly pushed for Harrell to take a chance on a young, ambitious Howard University student named Sean Combs. That single recommendation would become a defining moment in hip-hop history. Sean Combs quickly rose through the ranks at Uptown, becoming an influential talent scout and promoter. When he was later fired from Uptown in 1993, he launched Bad Boy Records, a label that would go on to dominate 1990s hip-hop and R&B. From the Notorious Big to Mace and Faith Evans, Bad Boy built an empire. And at the beginning of that empire stood Heavy D, the man who had unknowingly helped shape it by giving Combs his first break. But in the music industry, mentorship is rarely a straight path. Over time, relationships evolve, power dynamics shift, success can breed competition. As Diddy's influence grew, his empire began to eclipse the very foundation it was built upon. Meanwhile, Heavy D, though respected and still active, stepped away from the spotlight, shifting toward executive roles, acting, and behind-the-scenes contributions. One major turning point in their shared history was the 1991 tragedy at City College of New York. A celebrity charity basketball game co-promoted by Heavy D and Sean Combs ended in disaster when a stampede broke out at the gymnasium doors, leaving 9 people dead and dozens injured. The event was severely overcrowded, with more attendees than the venue could safely hold. Both Combs and Heavy D faced civil suits in the aftermath, and while neither faced criminal charges, they were found partially liable in civil court. The emotional and financial consequences of that night lingered for years. Families were left grieving, reputations were stained, and for both men, it marked the first time their success collided with serious legal and moral consequences. Some insiders believed that the tragedy changed their relationship. What began as a mutual respect may have become a source of blame, regret, or resentment. Over the years, both men continued their careers, often on separate tracks. Diddy became a global brand, diversifying into fashion, liquor, and television. Heavy D maintained a more modest profile, re-emerging periodically with acting roles, soundtrack appearances, and a late-career musical comeback. But behind the public appearances, those who knew them claimed there was distance. The mentor and the protege were no longer aligned. For some fans and theorists, the changing nature of their relationship adds another layer to the mystery surrounding Heavy D's death. If there were unresolved tensions, lingering guilt from past events, or financial conflicts tied to settlements and lawsuits, those issues may have created a rift far deeper than what was ever made public.
Well, then in 1991, there was the Heavy D and Puff Daddy celebrity basketball game.
City College tragedy.
Right.
Some see the events at City College as a symbolic fracture, the moment when a bond built on trust and shared vision began to erode. Over time, mentorship gave way to rivalry, collaboration turned into separation, and the original connection that helped launch an empire faded into silence. Whether or not that silence held bitterness or unresolved conflict remains unclear, but for those who question the nature of Heavy D's passing, the history between him and Diddy is not just backstory, it's a potential motive, buried beneath decades of fame, tragedy, and business.
I wanted to make sure I had at least 6 weeks to rehearse, and like 8-hour days for 6 weeks, just getting in dance steps, trying to get my wind back up, make sure I still got my knees.
Weeks before his death, Heavy D was reclaiming his place in hip-hop. His high-energy performance at the 2011 BET Hip Hop Awards was met with cheers. He looked healthy, slimmer, and ready for a second act. That return sparked questions after his sudden passing. Why now? Why at his moment of reemergence? Some fans believe his comeback made him a threat. A rejuvenated Heavy D could speak out about the past, reclaim control, or upend narratives in an industry built on secrecy. Conspiracy forums erupted with claims that his rise came at a cost. Many questioned the silence from those around him. Diddy's tribute was labeled by some as cold or rehearsed. Others noticed that no insider seemed eager to dig deeper. That silence stirred suspicion. Documentaries and channels like Celebrity Underrated picked up the story. Old clips of Heavy D hinted at deeper battles and unspoken truths. His death, ruled a pulmonary embolism, now looked at least to some less like tragedy and more like timing. Soon, a pattern began to take shape. Fans coined it the Diddy curse. Biggie, Kim Porter, Andre Harrell, and now Heavy D. Each had close ties to Diddy. Each died under sudden or unclear circumstances. TikTok videos stitched their faces together with ominous captions. They all knew too much. Reddit threads broke down timelines, falling outs, and lawsuits. Was this coincidence or something more calculated? To the public, the pattern felt heavy. Even without proof, the frequency of loss among Diddy's inner circle sparked unease. The idea of a curse was more than internet folklore. It was a theory with real emotional weight. Though there's no confirmed evidence of foul play, the chilling proximity of these deaths fueled growing distrust. In 2025, Diddy filed a defamation lawsuit against NBC and Peacock over their documentary, Making of a Bad Boy, which implicated him in the deaths of celebrities including Heavy D. His legal team called the claims malicious and false. They reaffirmed that Heavy D's death was medically explained, with no signs of foul play. But the lawsuit backfired. It amplified public interest. Online threads reignited. People rewatched interviews, unearthed old footage, and began asking, why sue now, unless there was something to hide? Instead of shutting down speculation, the legal move became its own headline. Theories multiplied.
In the morning, you speak to your child, and within 4 hours, he's gone.
After Heavy D's passing, his mother, Eula Lee Myers, gave a rare interview. She didn't accuse anyone or hint at conspiracy, but her words lingered. He was okay, just tired, she said softly. Then the call came. She spoke of his generous spirit, his love for his daughter, and how focused he'd been in his final days. It was sudden, unexpected. There were no bold claims, just quiet grief. But for those already questioning the official story, her calm sadness only deepened the mystery. Sometimes, it's not what's said, it's what remains unexplained.
We all started so young, and now we're all a lot of us are in our 40s or whatever. You see a lot of people starting to pass away.
Crazy, right?
And that's just life, that's being life.
In one of his final interviews for Hip Hop: A Cultural Odyssey, Heavy D reflected on his career, talked about healing the culture and mentoring new artists. He seemed calm, focused, ready for legacy work. To some, that interview felt like a farewell, not rehearsed but real, as if he knew something was ending. Was it closure or foreshadowing? We don't know, but many believe it was Heavy D's final message, a parting gift wrapped in wisdom. So did Diddy kill Heavy D? There's no smoking gun. no forensic red flags. The autopsy reported pulmonary embolism. The medical timeline fits, but sometimes facts and instincts don't line up. Heavy D was coming back. He had influence, secrets, and stories. The timing of his death, strange. The silence afterward, deafening. From poison rumors to whispered betrayals, from lawsuits to eerie patterns, the questions haven't stopped. Was it just tragedy or something darker? Let us know what you think. Was Heavy D taken too soon or taken for a reason?